Yeah.
Okay, so hi, I'm here with Anne today, and thank you so much for coming onto this call with me, and agreeing to talk about your experience of being with us, and how, you know, what you've got from being with us. And specifically, we're going to talk today about values and authenticity. So yeah, really good to see you today, Ant. So
Thank you.
can I launch in? Are you okay to launch in?
Go for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so as I said, we're going to talk about values and authenticity today. And I'd wonder if you'd be willing to just share with anyone who's listening today, your experience. I know you've had great results from working on your value system. So your experience of that, you know, talk through your process with us here. You know, just give us a little summary of how it's worked for you.
Yeah, so I came, I suppose, to you in February of this year, kind of basically having had a mental breakdown. I pushed myself so far and so hard into things, I suppose, that I felt that I should do, that my energy was just at an all-time low, and kind of all of my energy had been depleted, and I was kind of at rock bottom, and all the things that I was doing, I thought that they were really good things and really healthy things, and I got myself to a point where I suppose I became lost, because all of these things that I thought were great things had driven me to a position where I got to rock bottom. So I was kind of at a complete loss of where to go, complete loss of purpose, loss of direction, and I suppose loss of identity as well, because I think I'd really attached my identity to all these things. A lot of them were kind of either achievement-based things or exercise-based things, that I was kind of, I'd not only lost where I was going, but I'd kind of lost who I was in the process. And yeah, so I was absolutely lost, and that's where I needed essentially your help to get myself back out again.
How does that, can I chip in a moment? How did that feel
Yep.
for you, having lost your motivation with, you know, because it sounds like prior to that you've been quite driven and you know, sort of had some focus, and suddenly you were in this position where you'd lost all your motivation. How did that feel?
Yeah, it felt empty for me. It was almost, I was riding a high, massive high, and it was almost literally falling off a cliff and a massive crash. So
Yeah.
I went from what I thought I was kind of feeling all these positive emotions to just feeling absolutely empty, and I just say complete loss of energy, but also, yeah, loss of all drive and also emotion. I kind of, a big thing for me has almost been a real lack of feeling, when things come in, when I'm at my worst. And as I say, that was a really hard thing to come back from, because I'd been on such a high and had all these positive feelings that I thought were kind of right for me, to then go from that to essentially what felt like nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. So what, obviously you came on board with me, and you know, we did some work together. So what was the biggest kind of steering point for you in supporting you to address, you know, this place that you were in?
Yeah, I think for me it really was trying to find out who I was. I say, if you'd have asked me at the start of the process, well, if you'd have asked me last year who I was, I'd have given you a long list of things, of kind of titles. I'd have said I'm an accountant, I am a golfer, I am a runner, I am a cyclist, I'm a studier, I'm a reader, I'm a learner, all these things. That was who I was. As I say, then when I hit rock bottom, I kind of disassociated myself with all those things, because I thought all of these things must be bad because they've got me into this place. So as I say, at the start of the process, it was almost, who am I? I have no idea, because I didn't want to associate with anything for fear that it would send me back to that place. So the key thing for me has been to work through my values to try and find out, kind of taking away all of those layers of who I thought I was before, and trying to get really down to who I was, kind of in my heart, and in my spirit, who I actually was. So the process of actually working out my values, and essentially that's provided me with the purpose and the direction to find out what I actually want to do in life, and give myself that purpose. And what it's actually done in finding my values, it's actually meant that all of those things that I'd labeled as bad actually I've started to pick up again, because actually they weren't bad. The reason that I was doing them was wrong. And that's been a big shift.
So it was behind, like you say, it was like who you are. So it was what was behind why
Yes.
you were doing things and being the way that you were, and
Yeah.
working on your values has supported you with that. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of now you understand what your values are and have been able to do that little piece of work, which you did so well.
Yeah.
How has life changed for you? What, so that people can understand how perhaps they might make some change, or how things might look different for them. What's been different for you? How you interact with your world today?
The key thing for me is kind of the motivation for doing things. I say I've got my values now, and they are almost my guide for life. As I say before, where I might have gone for a run to achieve an objective or a goal, I now think, right, how does a goal help me, and why do I want to do that goal? So one of my values being compassion, I'm a compassionate person. That includes self-compassion. Therefore, the reason I want to go for a run is because I want to feel better at the end of it. One that means is I'm better able to, in that scenario, listen to my body, listen to what my mind is telling me, or my heart is telling me, so that I'm going to do the right thing by myself, and not for any other reason or any other expectation that other people might have on me to do something else. So it really just feels like I'm doing right by myself now. Yes. Whereas before I was doing something for another reason, whether it be for some form of external perception or some expectation or need that I had on myself to be a certain way. Whereas now it really just feels like I'm, I say, listening to my heart, listening to my body, and doing right by myself. And that's one situation, but also I suppose it's also pushing me into things that are a lot harder for me. So I've always struggled with social situations, and anxiety would drive me there. And I now know, again, one of my big values is kind of connection. And I really know that I want to connect with people. And therefore having that knowledge of connection and all the other values that I've got means that I can accept potentially this fear or this negativity that comes around before, and I can push myself into those situations because I know I want to connect with people.
Yeah.
And that's something I didn't have before. I would have listened to the fear, I would have avoided, and I would have just not gone through with it.
Yeah. And fear is so draining, isn't it? And also it just felt like hard work where you were before. It was just like, so you were exercising to prove something, to get affirmation for others, to be better, but actually now you recognize that it's actually, you do that to feel good within yourself. Absolutely. So it's very much about you and what your needs are.
Yes.
And then, also with the connection with people, pushing through barriers, it feels like now you're able to push through barriers because your motivation is different. Yes. It's about connecting with people because you know that again is going to make you feel good. And it really, I hear you didn't have that knowledge before.
Absolutely. No, I had no idea. I'd say almost all of my life was driven by, I suppose, kind of ego and perception or an expectation that I'd put on myself to be a certain way, whereas it's completely flipped now. So it doesn't mean that I'll get everything right. It doesn't mean that I go into all situations and automatically I'm in line with my values and I'm enjoying myself and I'm doing right by myself. But it means that I can now recognize those situations whereby I'm not living in line with my values. I'm not necessarily in the right place. And before, where guilt or shame might have taken over to say, I did the wrong thing, or I wasn't comfortable in that situation, why am I not enough or not good enough? I'm now better able to kind of think, well, actually, maybe that situation wasn't right for me. Again, kind of coming back to compassion and self-compassion. I've not done the wrong thing. Maybe that just wasn't the right place for me, or that specific situation wasn't right. And next time it will be better because I'll have learned from that situation.
So you've I'm hearing a really rational approach there to those thoughts and beliefs, which we all have of not being good enough, but recognizing actually what is right for you and what isn't right for you.
And
because I agree with you, and we go into situations and it just reinforces that sense of I'm not good enough,
Yeah.
because we're trying to achieve something different to perhaps what we truly need.
Yeah.
So how has this impacted how you feel today? I mean, what's the difference for you?
I suppose I feel things again. That's been a big
Mm.
difference for me, certainly over the last kind of month or so. I'm not bogged down with thoughts of I can't feel anything, or if I go through with this, I will feel this.
Mm.
I'm just kind of, again, one of my values is curiosity. And I'm really curious about things, and I really want to learn things. And the only way for me to do that is to do more things. And so my life is a lot fuller. It's still not as full as I would like, and therefore I've still got the direction and the purpose to go forward. But yes, I say I'm beginning to feel things again, and things are kind of almost taking me by surprise and that kind of thing. Whereas before it was very controlled for me. I knew what I was going to do, and I knew I knew that I was going to protect myself and that I wouldn't have to go through these kind of things. Whereas now I'm open to whatever happens, and I'm not going to stop as a result of this fear mind. I know how to deal with this fear that kind of comes over, because I've got these guides to provide me with where I want to go.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've got these, and this is what the values does. It gives you those little anchors to kind of hook your life onto. And I know that sounds quite simplistic, but actually, the benefit that I'm hearing for you of being able to push through fear, deal with that kind of voice that we have sometimes of I'm not good enough, but also put yourself first in your life. And the curiosity, I mean, tell me a little bit more about the curiosity. I mean, what brought you to that conclusion that that's a value of yours? What informed that for you?
I think I've always known that I loved learning, but that was always in quite a controlled sense. That might be me reading a book or me studying at home on my own. Whereas now I suppose it's more curious about experiences and about connection, which I'd kind of neglected in my life before. So as I say, again, it's a bit of a shift in perspective, whereby I wasn't curious about what happened because I thought I knew what would happen, because I was fearful of it, and I would assume that guilt or shame or whatever emotion would come out. Now I'm kind of not prejudging what comes out. I'm more curious about what comes afterwards. And again, I am noticing that different things come out from different situations, and I say I'm much better to control or be with the negative emotions that come out, and also I'm much better to know if a positive emotion comes out, then that is kind of right for me. That's what I want. So yeah, it just means, again, it's brought openness to my life. That means I'm not, if I ever hear someone say that something is good or something that is worthwhile, I'm more than open to trying it and having a go, potentially failing or making a mistake, or pursuing it if I feel it's the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, just sounds right, and I love the way that you speak about this. It's very inspirational, to hear what you're saying as well, and but also, that the non-judgment, actually bringing non-judgment into your life, because sort of knowing you a little bit. We all have judgments, don't we? And we have judgments of how we're going to be viewed, what we need to do, and that's natural. We collect all of those throughout our lives, but it really feels like, through the last few months, obviously working with me and doing the great work that you have on yourself, you've been able to strip some of those judgments away and just have that pure curiosity. Obviously, we don't always get it right every day.
Right.
But well done. I'm really kind of proud of the work that you've done, and I'm so delighted that you've had such a great result for yourself, and that you're feeling a lot better within yourself. But just as a last kind of note, the word authenticity, it comes up quite a lot. And sometimes I think people who see my posts or see what, I talk about, they think, well, what is authenticity? So I was wondering if you'd be able to give a little insight on that, but also perhaps a little note as, did you know what authenticity meant before? And perhaps, what does it mean to you today?
Yeah, I think, like a lot of people, I say the word authenticity gets bandied about, and I knew it was a good thing, and feel like I kind of knew theoretically what it was, but I suppose I never had the experience of being it, so I didn't really know what it was, or that kind of thing. I probably had the knowledge of it, but I didn't have the wisdom because I'd learned about it, but I hadn't actually lived it.
Yeah.
And I think the best way I would describe it is just, it's when you are in a situation and you are comfortable and you're being yourself. And I suppose for me, it is living in line with my values. That's how I get myself there.
Yeah.
Whereas I know now when I'm in a situation when I'm not myself, because thoughts tend to take over and I start living outside of my values. So, for example, one of my values is honesty, and I'll start to exaggerate stories, or I'll start to really trying to overinflate things that have happened, or try and show that my life is a certain way, or that I am a certain thing. And I really start to recognize that now, because that is both an uncomfortable situation, and I know that my mind is racing when that happens. Even though it might be received well, it still doesn't feel comfortable, even if it is, because I know that I'm not doing right by myself again. Whereas when you are authentic, it just flows. You don't even think about it. You just live, and almost that bravery and that vulnerability starts to come out, even though you don't even notice that you're doing it. And sometimes it does take a bit of work to get there, to become authentic in a situation, and you have to find the right situations and the right people. But once you're there, as you say, you mentioned earlier that being in fear is draining. When you're authentic, it is not. It's the opposite. It's energizing, so it lifts your energy. And that's a really, really big difference.
Yeah. So great. And what a wonderful place for us to finish this today. And just that reduction of the guilt, the shame, the tiredness, the loss of energy, and just the flow. I mean, you spoke about how it flows, when you can be authentic. And I'm absolutely thrilled that you've been able to explore that. Perhaps your curiosity has helped with that, and to find that place where you can flow in life. Obviously I always say it's a day at a time, but the just having that knowledge and awareness. Thank you for sharing that on this call today. And I really hope that somebody, if you're watching this, if you've got something from this, and just see that actually being in alignment with your values, first of all, understanding what they are, knowing what they are, which is a big part of the work that I do with most people who come through my programs. And then starting to build those into your life, like Ant has, in a really experimental way. He's been doing that, can really support you and help you to feel more energized, to put down that guilt and shame, and to feel like your life is a lot more in flow. So thank you very much, Ant, for coming today.
Thank you.
And no doubt we'll speak again soon.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you.